to this episode of Just Talking About Jesus. I am so glad you're joining us today. We are going to talk about grief, but also about hope that just through Jesus helps us to get through things and beyond them, and even years beyond, to see what he's done with the situations we've had in there. My guest today is Hadassah Troy. And you are from Romania, correct?
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
But you are near. Bulgaria and Romania are neighboring countries,
Okay,
so it's
close,
okay.
right. Okay.
Yes, very close, yeah.
We have a little bit in common because we've both written books about the deaths of our husbands, things
Yes,
that we had gone through at the time that really, I think, made each of us stronger at
yeah,
because of our dependence on God
yes,
at the time and what he was doing with not only us but with our husbands as well. And
yes,
so share us a little bit about who you are, and we'll get into some of your story.
yes. Yeah, as you said, I'm from Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, although I lived for 15 years in Austria because my husband was an Austrian, and during our marriage I lived there, and after his death I came back to my homeland, to Bulgaria. So I'm a Christian author, blogger, poet, speaker. I started my writing ministry approximately 9 years ago in 2017. First with the blog, and then it expanded in writing for other platforms and writing books and other stuff. But perhaps I will start at the very beginning, perhaps how I came to Jesus first,
Yeah.
and then dive into the next interesting periods of my life. Yeah, this was by itself quite an interesting story because this was, I think, my first experience with depression. I didn't know at this time that this was depression. I was 17, and Bulgaria was a communist country at that time, and the family dynamic was also not so good, the family I was living in. My father had so a kind of abusive behavior, and we were living in an atmosphere of fear. So I guess all these things together with the search for meaning and purpose, which I think uh, nearly every person at this age, 15, 16, 17, starts to search for identity, for meaning, for purpose. All these things coupled, I think, brought me in some kind of depression because at a certain period, I also struggled with the suicidal thought. And also at this time of deep struggle, I kind of prayed to God. To God, I didn't know because religion was forbidden at that time in Bulgaria. But I placed some kind of ultimatum that if there is a God, he should show himself to me, because otherwise I don't see any purpose and meaning for myself. And it was, I prayed this kind of prayer for half a year approximately, and then in a series of divine encounters and, so to say, accidental meetings and so, but there is nothing accidental. I was brought to a Pentecostal church, and I heard the gospel for first time there. And at the same day, on the same spot, I accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior. I think the Lord has prepared my heart until that day. And yeah, I wish to say that my life changed immediately. This didn't happen. My circumstances didn't change. But obviously, my internal world has changed because the depression lifted with the time, and I definitely felt much more peace and joy. And most of all, I could find finally meaning and purpose in my life. I could find the meaning of my life, which was the most important thing. Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you grow up in a country where Christianity is not accepted.
Yes. Yes.
Why did you think to talk to God? I mean, there had to have been something. Was it just from inside that you knew that there was a God, or?
Yes, I think from inside something, because I just cried, I don't know, to a superpower or to the universe. I mean, I was calling him God, but for me, this didn't have any character or any personality because I didn't know him, but just was crying out to if there is somebody that is higher than me and that could give purpose and meaning to my life. And actually, this was interesting because I think I was praying with the words that I'm searching. I want to find the way, the truth, and the life. I didn't know that these words are from the Bible, but I was praying or searching with exactly these terms. I wanted life, truth, and the way. Somebody to show me the way. Somebody to show me the way. And this was interesting because when I heard these words then later and found them in the New Testament, I was really shocked. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as if the Lord was, how the Lord knew my most intimate thoughts, because these were my most intimate thoughts without having knowledge of Him. And this was really amazing. This is really an example how the Lord can work with various people in various circumstances, even when they don't have an access to the Bible or access to any knowledge about Him or religion. This is, I think, really amazing. Yeah.
I think too. I mean, in a broader sense, I think somebody was praying for you.
Most probably, most probably.
You
I'm
know,
sure generations before they prayed for me. Yeah.
and even if it was a general prayer like
Yeah.
for those who don't know Jesus, or
Yes,
something,
yes,
I
yes,
believe that that's part of the work of the Holy Spirit.
yes, definitely, definitely. And it was not a general prayer because actually I later found out that my grandma, the mother of my father, she didn't confess, obviously, her religion until then Bulgaria was free from this communist regime. But then she later told me that her mother was actually a Pentecostal Christian and even had a home church in their home. So
Uh,
I'm sure that these generations have prayed for the next generation and for the next generations. It was really amazing. Yeah.
well, I believe that for sure, my grandmother prayed for me and
Yeah.
my mother as well. But yeah, I think it's just a testimony that God answers our prayers. Sometimes
Yes.
we just think, oh, we're just going to throw them out there, but He
Yes.
answers. He hears and He answers our prayers.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, this was my first meeting with depression, and then I had another experience with depression, much stronger, I would say. And this was during my marriage. I was already, so to say, a believer, but nevertheless, even as a believer, we are not guaranteed that we will not struggle with certain painful and traumatic experiences. And I struggled then with infertility, which was the main cause actually for my depression and panic attacks. But this period of approximately 5 years or so, I would say was one of the most intense periods of spiritual formation too, because the Lord really did a lot of things in my heart and in my character. And at the end, this whole period actually turned or ended with the fact that my husband gave his life to Jesus, and many other things. But among this was, I think, the main fruit, so to say. Um, yeah, this was the second round of depression, and the third round of depression. I hope the last. I hope the last. I don't know, but this is now the depression. I'm still struggling with this depression because depressive moods come and go still. Is the result of the sudden loss of my husband in 2020, the year 2020, which really brought me in this unpredictable and very dangerous journey of grief. Uh, Absolutely unknown territory for me, uncharted land. And yeah, it's now 6 years, but the grief journey continues. I can't say that I'm healed, if so to say, complete healing is possible. I'm not sure if this is possible at all, because the loss will stay. I'm sure in this, the loss will always stay until I leave. But simply my heart grows and my life grows larger around the loss. And for sure, God brings comfort in various ways. But nevertheless, I can really see this, that I'm still struggling with this kind of grief and depression, which is part of the grief, let's say like this. Yeah.
And there's no time frame on grief.
No,
There is no
no.
time when, it's just okay, I'm going to grieve for these
Yeah.
3 years and then,
Yeah.
life is going to go on and everything's going to be great. And,
Mm-hmm.
because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work that way. And it could be, I mean, my husband this year was 41 years since he died.
Wow.
Because, I mean, generally, I'd say I'm over the grief
Mm-hmm.
as far as that goes. But because I was promoting my book, then you start reading
Mm-hmm.
those things. And even, yeah, as you know, as you're writing,
Yeah.
it takes bravery,
Oh, yes.
courage to write a book about a painful
Yes.
experience.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it brings all that up. So you've said that that painful experiences could be the birthplace of blessings. How do you see that?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, this is actually the whole concept and the idea that made me to write my first book that came out in 2024. But it's a very interesting story of this book, because the story actually started with the very, very first blog post, the very first article that I ever wrote at the start of my ministry. And this was in March 2017. I wrote a blog post called About the Losses and Gains on the Way, in which I wanted to show that God is the redeemer of all our suffering and losses, and that our gains, spiritual gains mostly, of course, outweigh much more our losses, which are, most of them are temporal and earthly losses. And I wrote, it was a beautiful blog post, beautiful article, one could say, quite theoretical, let's say, but I didn't know that I then need to live this in practice in the following years, so to say, to prove that this is true. Yeah, in going through various losses. Yeah, this was, and exactly 7 years later, exactly in March 2024, the book came out. And I love, of course, the symbolism of the number seven, because this marks this complete circle, this completion and perfection. And yeah, God is anyway the God of perfect timing. He's really amazing how he orchestrates things. But the real concept of the book was developed actually in 2021, and this was the hardest year, because this was the year right after the loss of my husband. And I think I wanted to write the book not only for the reader, but it was partly for me a therapy, so I can see my suffering and my pain from biblical perspective, somehow to find really the right thinking, the right perspective, how I view my situation, because the pain was really, really very intense. And so the whole idea is that I describe 13 painful experiences in this book. We can call it also traumas or traumatic experiences, like betrayal, rejection, loneliness, depression, grief, and so on. And then my idea was to define and acknowledge the concrete losses with each experience, because some are common, but there are some very concrete for each experience, to make a list of these losses, but then also to make a list of the possible gains, which we can really gain spiritual blessings, and not only, if, of course, there is a condition, if we draw near to God, if we allow God to work in our pain and suffering. And I just wanted to give some kind of a roadmap or a helpful tool that the reader can reconcile the painful experience that she or he is going through and the God reality, or really so what the Lord says it's true and what he wants for us and what he is committed to do in us and to us. And yeah, so that's why I believe that that each painful experience can be the birthplace of blessings, only if we allow the Holy Spirit to work in us, to work in our pain, to comfort us, to grow us, to mature us. Uh, I found out for me that really the most difficult thing or the real struggle is the struggle, the faith struggle. It's not the struggle. It's not so much a matter of pain and suffering. It's really a faith matter. Shall I trust God? Shall I continue to draw near to Him? Shall I entrust my suffering to Him? Or shall I, so to say, emotionally and spiritually turn my back on Him because I feel too hurt or too offended or not understanding? And it's really a faith issue, which of course reminds me always of Job, because in this book, exactly this struggle is portrayed in big detail. Yeah.
Well, and yeah, grief is something that everyone experiences,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's not
Yes.
all just one little package. It's not just because somebody died. It can be
No.
because you've moved, you've lost a job,
Mm-hmm.
you have
Exactly.
your
Exactly.
hopes like desiring a child that are
Yes.
unmet, the
Yes. Yes.
those types of things. It could be loss of identity or
Yes.
all of those
Yes.
things could be a
Yeah.
cold grief, you know.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's universal as to what, you know,
Yeah. It's very universal. You are right. Yeah.
and even Jesus, I mean,
Oh, yeah. The
himself.
ultimate grief expert. Yeah. He's the man of sorrows. Yeah. He's called. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Even he experienced grief to the utmost. Yeah. And
What
anguish.
exactly? What are some scriptures that you have clung to?
Oh, there are a lot of scriptures, but I think one of the scriptures that I most years, not only after the loss of my husband, but most years, I think these are words in Isaiah. I think Jeremiah chapter 30 to 31 or 33 are one of my favorite chapters, where God is speaking about rebuilding, about healing, and so on. These chapters are really, I reread them very often. But I think these are words mostly from Isaiah, where there is one promise that God will make. Of course, he talks about Jerusalem in Israel, but I take this personally for me, that he will make me flourish or make Jerusalem flourish like the Garden of Eden. That he will comfort the abandoned places and make you flourish like the Garden of Eden. And this sounds so marvelous for me, so even impossible, I would say, even. But I cling to this because I think only he is possible to comfort these abandoned or desolate places in my heart and in my life and bring life to them. These are scriptures that bring me comfort. And also, immediately after the death of my husband in Job, there was one verse, I forgot the chapter, I think chapter 11, at the end, where Job said, even the darkness, it will not silence me. The darkness that you have let to cover my face. I'm a little bit paraphrasing, but in these verses, Job is very well acknowledging that God had brought this darkness over him, but at the same time that the darkness will not silence him. And I always thought this is a great promise, because the darkness not to silence us first means that it will not silence our communication with God, or our fellowship with God, which is, I think, the most important thing. And then that will not silence us as witnesses, it will not silence our testimony, so to say. So I found this is a great promise, and especially in the first months and year after the death of my husband, this was a verse I really held on to. And one third, again from Job, where he says, you will forget your sorrow like waters that are passing by. And I always thought this is impossible. I'll never forget my pain and my sorrows. But I think we are talking here about emotional healing. Of course, we will never forget the facts. The facts always will stay. This is not, but they will not bring us any more pain. We can talk about them without this pain, and I think this is really emotional healing, which only God can surely bring to our hearts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, all of that requires a huge amount of trust.
Yes, a
We-
huge.
And I think the more we know the character of God, the more we're able
Yes,
to trust him, you know,
yes,
and by reading through all of the scriptures, the laments, and to know that it's a normal, what you're going through is
yes,
normal.
yes. It's normal. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's okay to go through
yeah.
that and to take your time to
Yes, yes,
be
yes,
to sit in it, just
yes,
to
yes,
sit in the grief
yes,
that's there.
yes.
Yeah. Do you have any certain ways that you pray about your grief or
I don't have certain ways. I really enjoy journaling, so every morning, and in this journaling, I'm trying not just to tell God about what happened externally, but mainly to to tell Him about my internal world, what happens internally to me, and it helps me somehow. Writing helps me also to get things clear for me and to get things expressed in my notebook. And sometimes, so very often, I'm making some verses or some psalms like a personal prayer for me. I personalize them and write them down. This I found this very helpful, at least for me. And then, or I read them aloud as a personal prayer. And I like very much the Psalms of Lament, and they help me a lot to express these different conflicting emotions, because from one side we express pain and we complain even to God, which I call holy complaint, but at the same time we do this somehow with reverence, with hope, and on the background of faith. And the Psalms really give us these words, these phrases, I think there's some for every emotion. I think God made so well. Gave us the Bible, and He gave us everything we need in the Bible. So really, a psalm for every emotion that we can express. And yeah, this is how I like to pray. And this is, of course, one part of my prayer. But I really first start. Maybe it's selfish, maybe not. I don't know. But I really first start with my own stuff, because this needs to be firstly resolved. Because because before I could pray for other people. And yeah, and then I usually pray for other people. I have a list which is standing every day in front of me, and I pray for these people so every day. But also, if the Lord brings somebody out of the list, I do this. And I also try to cultivate the habit to pray really at every occasion, at every time, while I'm walking, while I'm in the gym, or doing something. If I hear some need, or if somebody shares something with me, a problem or something, then I'm not losing time. I'm so praying immediately, even if this is a short prayer, it doesn't matter. So I'm cultivating this, and I actually enjoy it very much, because I think this ongoing conversation with God, ongoing fellowship um, is very rewarding. I mean, it keeps me in some kind of a peaceful and joyful condition. I mean, doesn't matter how the day develops, but this inner peace, this joy, they stay. So deep down, they stay when we have this ongoing fellowship with the Lord.
that's
Yeah.
because he's your best friend
Yes.
and he's your husband, you know?
Yes, yes. He talked about this a lot also in the first year after I lost my he with these words that he's also my husband, because I felt so helpless when I lost my husband. This is the word helpless. Of course, I lost my identity as wife, But the word was helpless because my husband was the very responsible and caring type of a person who took care of a lot of stuff like financial, administrative, in the house, technical, and so. And suddenly I was left alone, and I needed to take care of things which I absolutely didn't know how to do, or I felt helpless. Yeah, this was helpless and somehow naked, somehow without any protection or covering. Let's say it like this. And then the Lord talked a lot about this, that He is my husband, my creator, and my friend, and with Him I'm not helpless. And actually, this is the lesson that I'm learning now all these years. I'm really amazed uh, how, with His help, I managed to come through a lot of challenges and hardships and problems to find solution to problems which I never thought I was able to find, never before. So this is really a great lesson. I'm not helpless with Him. Yeah.
It sounds like you've had a lot of but God moments where you're in the
Yes, a
middle
lot
of
of,
it, but
a
God
lot.
has pulled you out of this, or He's taken you to this
Yes.
direction, or He's shown you Himself, or,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Or bring, or gave, very often he gives me just wisdom or ideas what to do, or brings me to certain people or to certain information that I needed. And he works in various ways, really. So amazing.
Yeah, yeah. We're almost
Yeah.
out of time, but I would like to know, what would you like to leave our listeners with, and where can people find you?
Yes. Yeah, there are so many things that we can say, but I just, perhaps the most important things I want the listeners to have as takeaways that our pain and our suffering is not in vain. It has meaning, it has purpose, it can be a catalyst for growth, it can be a pathway to renewal if this is the important part, we draw near to God, if we surrender to God, if we seek the Lord and really have this communication and fellowship with Him. So this is my main message for today. And yeah, I can be found on my website on thewaybg.com, on social media with the handle on the way BG or Hadassah Troy on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel, Hadassah Troy author. And if people want to have more regular contact with me, the best way would be to subscribe to my newsletter. This can be done on my website. I send my newsletter twice per month, and so I try to send my best content, news, and invitations, and yeah, some helpful stuff. And of course, I love to share free resources from other Christian authors and bloggers in my newsletter too. I think this is important. Yeah, so I would be happy to connect with your listeners.
Yeah, okay. I will put all of those links in the show notes for sure
Yeah,
because, yeah, there's a lot of good things. And I would
yeah.
recommend that people watch some of her YouTubes because they're just uh, short snippets of things and
Yes,
what God is
yes,
doing in your life, and just encouragement, words of encouragement.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today because it's been a
Thank you.
real pleasure. And
For me too. Thanks
uh,
a lot. Yeah.